Welcome to this unscheduled council meeting of 25th of February 2025, which is being held in person in the council chamber at Civic Centre, 25 Ferris Boulevard, South Morang. The meeting is also being live streamed. I'm Deputy Mayor Daniela Zini. I would like to introduce our councillors in attendance tonight. Councillor Christine Stowe. Councillor David Lenberg. Councillor Deb Gunn? No, sorry. No. Councillor Blair Colwell. Councillor Stephen Kumevsky. Councillor Nick Brooks. Councillor Laurie Cox. Councillor Jared Lappin. And Councillor Martin Taylor. I would also like to introduce our Chief Executive Officer, Craig Lloyd, and ask that Craig introduce members of the Executive Leadership Team.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. And joining us tonight is Executive Manager, Office of Council and CEO, Jacinta Stevens.
Okay, so on behalf of Council, I recognise the rich Aboriginal heritage of this country and acknowledge the Wurundjeri, Willam clan and the Turarong people as the traditional owners of lands within the city of Whittlesea. I would also like to personally acknowledge the elders past, present and emerging. I will now read our diversity and good governance statement. At the City of Whittlesea, we are proud of our diversity and the many cultures, faiths and beliefs that make our community. We strive to be an inclusive, welcoming city that fosters active participation, well-being and connection to each other and this land. We commit as a council to making informed decisions to benefit the people of the City of Whittlesea now and into the future, to support our community vision of a place for all. So I note that there are some apologies this evening. We do have Mayor Councillor McLennan as an apology, and I believe we have Councillor Deb Gunn, who's trying to get back to us. Councillors and officers, if you have a conflict of interest in any of the items on the agenda, you may verbally disclose the type and nature of the interest now, but you must also make the declaration immediately before consideration of the matter in question. Councillors, are there any items on which you have a conflict of interest to declare? No. Do any officers present this evening have any conflict of interest in any terms of tonight's agenda to declare? No, Chair.
No, Chair. Chair. Where's this need to ask Councillor to leave as we can't see her?
Okay, Councillor Gunn, we cannot see you, so we've been advised to ask you to leave the meeting. Okay, so the first item, 3.1, draft election period policy. I'd like to ask Jacinta Stevens, Executive Manager Officer of Council and CEO, to talk on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. In presenting this report tonight, the draft election period policy sets out the requirements for candidates, including council officers who stand for council, local elections. The policy also extends to candidates wishing to stand for state or federal elections. The purpose of this report is to seek Council's endorsement to release the draft policy to the community via Council's Engage page, seeking their feedback in line with the Local Government Act requirements. The main amendments made to the draft policy are primarily to enhance the requirements on what is required of council officers standing as a candidate in an election. Examples of other amendments made to the draft policy include prohibitions on councillors from promoting their election campaign or policy position during council meetings, council officers being prohibited from approaching councillors leading up to an election in attempt to gain an advantage or benefit in exchange for a formal council decision, not placing any election materials on or in any council-owned or operated facility or land. Officers are recommending Council adopt the draft policy with track changes for release to the community for their feedback. Following community feedback, a report will be brought back to Council for final adoption of the election period policy. Thank you.
Councillors, do we have any questions relating to this item? Do I have a motion or mover for the item 3.1? Councillor Colwell, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Brooks. Councillor Colwell, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Councillor Brooks, as a seconder, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Stowe, Councillor Lindbergh, Councillor Colwell, Councillor Kamevsky, Councillor Brooks, Councillor Cox, Councillor Lappin, Councillor Taylor and myself, Councillor Zinni. It's carried unanimously. Okay, yes. So 3.2, Council Social Media Policy. I'll also ask Jacinta Stevens to come and speak to us on that. Thank you, Jacinta.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to present you for consideration a new council social media policy which provides councillors with guidelines on how to use social media effectively and minimise risk. I will now hand over to Manager Communications and Engagement, Sarah, to draw your attention to some key aspects of the policy.
Thank you, Jacinta. As part of recent local government reforms, it was recommended that councils adopt a social media policy to ensure councillors can confidently choose to participate in social media while still adhering to the requirements of the Model Councillor Code of Conduct. The draft policy is based on the Victorian Local Governance Association Model Councillor Social Media Policy, which was released in December 2024. The policy recognises the opportunities that social media provides as a platform for community connection to enable councillors to hear from the community and to foster transparency and trust. It also seeks to provide guidance to mitigate some of the inherent risks, including exposure to legal liability, exposure to trolling and cyberbullying, as well as a significant administrative workload associated with managing a platform. The draft policy addresses freedom of expression and how councillors can ensure community understands the difference between a councillor's personal view and official position of council. It talks to good faith behaviour, aligning the Model Councillor Code of Conduct to protect the integrity and public's trust in local government. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, do we have any questions relating to this item? Do we have a motion for the item 3.2? Councillor Taylor. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Lappin. Councillor, would you like to?
Chair, just a point of order.
Yes.
I've only just received the link now and haven't been privy to what's moved, as I do have a question related to.
Okay, so hang on just a second, Mr Mayor. So, Chair, can I suggest that we ask the officer to repeat what was given previously? And for that to happen, Councillor McClendon, you will need to turn your camera on to be part of the meeting.
The camera says on here.
It's not showing at our end.
Yeah, it's not showing on my computer either, but it does say on.
You're not able to participate in the meeting unless we can see you. That's the governance rules, because we need to be able to see you to confirm your vote.
Councillor McClendon, the previous camera you had, are you the same camera as you were using before?
Shut that down and do a fresh one. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we cannot see you, and we need to see you for you to be part of this meeting.
Says your camera isn't working, but it was before.
Yes, we saw you before in the briefing.
Now it's not working.
It's not working. We need to make a decision on this so we can move along with the meeting.
But does my, so, can I just clarify, so my audio contribution is not considered?
No, it's not. It's part of the governance rules. You need to be visually able to attend the meeting. Yeah, we could suggest an adjournment until we work out your camera. Is that?
You can move an agenda.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy to move the adjournment.
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. That's watching at home, and we just had a brief delay, but we are now moving forward. So we are going to be repeating item 3.2, Council Social Media Policy, and I'll ask Jacinta Stevens, Executive Manager Officer of Council and CEO, to present that. Thank you, Jacinta.
Thank you, Chair.
Watching at home, and we just had
The purpose of this report is to present to you for consideration a new councillor social media policy which provides councillors with guidance on how to use social media effectively and minimise risks. I will now hand over to Manager Communications and Engagement, Sarah, to draw your attention to some key aspects of this policy.
Thank you, Jacinta. As part of recent local government reforms, it was recommended that councillors adopt a social media policy to ensure councillors can confidently choose to participate in social media while still adhering to the requirements of the Model Councillor Code of Conduct. The draft policy is based on the Victorian Local Governance Association Model Councillor Social Media Policy, which was released in December 2024. The policy recognises the opportunities that social media provides as a platform for community connection and to enable councillors to hear from the community and to foster transparency and trust. It also seeks to provide guidance to mitigate some of the inherent risks, including exposure to legal liability, exposure to trolling, cyberbullying, as well as a significant administrative workload associated with managing a platform. The draft policy addresses freedom of expression and how councillors can ensure community understands the difference between a councillor's personal view and an official position of council. It talks to good faith behaviour, aligning the Model Councillor Code of Conduct to protect the integrity and public's trust in local government. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, do we have any questions relating to this item? Councillor McClendon.
Through you, Chair, we haven't received any formal legal advice. However, the policy that's before us tonight was developed with some slight tweaks by officers from the VLGA.
Thank you. My question that's was that this may constitute
He's talking about the right agenda, right?
Yes, I'll get CEO to respond on this one.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just confirm, first of all, Councillor McClendon, that you are referring to the Council's social media policy? That's the item that we're dealing with? Yeah, so if that's the case, then no, I'm comfortable that this document is legal and appropriate.
I do caution councillors not to place illegal self-service that it does impact constituent election interference. There are existing rules in place, statute and federal law in place already that cater to items like this. My concern is we have not obtained legal advice, and I strongly
Yeah, Councillor McClendon, I'll stop you there. Thank you.
He's talking to the motion.
You need to talk back to the motion.
Finish off the
Thank you.
questions.
You need to stick to the question. I'll get CEO to say on that.
Thank you. I'm comfortable that legal advice is not required, but however, I would seek that legal advice should a councillor have a successful motion moved requesting that this evening.
Yep, that's fine.
And the motion would read that council seek weekly.
I'll do that now.
Yeah, stop. I'll stop you there. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Are you asking for other questions?
Yeah, from councillors. Yeah.
I have a question.
Just microphone.
Clarification. Subject to this part, councils are free to express an independent view on social media, provides clear the audience a personal view represents that includes but is not limited to a personal view that differs from council stating a desire to change council position. My question is about encouraging members of the public to participate in the decision-making process. So is this that we're not allowed to encourage them, or we are able to encourage? I just need clarification on that point, what that point's trying to make.
Thank you for that question. I'll get Jacinta Stevens to answer that. Or Sarah.
Councillor Stowe, could you turn off your microphone?
Through you, Chair, the purpose of that statement is that social media is an opportunity for the community to participate in the decision-making process of council.
Thank you.
Any other questions relating to this item? Councillor McClendon.
So in relation to the participation in social
Sorry, through you, Chair. I think Councillor Clinton is referring to the election period policy, which was already resolved on.
Yes, so Councillor McClendon, are you on the right policy because we're looking at social media? Well, we've already resolved on the election period policy, so we're on the social media policy, so we just stick to that question. Do you have any other questions for that, Councillor McClendon?
It's wrong policy.
I'll stop you there. You're on the incorrect policy. We're talking about the election period policy. So we've already resolved on that one. So do you have any further questions for the social media policy? Okay.
Through you, Chair. Sorry, can we just ask Councillor McClendon to advise us where in the social media policy he's referring to?
referring to the social media policy at large, that is the
Point of order, Chair. Previously, Councillor McClendon referred to paragraph 8.8. There is no paragraph 8.8 in this policy.
That's correct. You need to rule that one way or the other.
Yeah, I'd like to rule that because that's correct.
I'm no longer referring to that, Chair. I'm actually referring to the social policy at large. It is the CEO
The section of the policy that we're not currently dealing with, that you're referring to, relates to council-hosted social media. So, for example, if our public affairs team were to post a social media post during that time, it requires my certification. That is correct.
Councillors, do I have a motion for this item 3.2? Councillor Taylor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lappin. Councillor Taylor, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks, Chair. The Council's social media policy outlines the benefits and risks to the use of social media by councillors. In particular, includes, as has been recently referred to, the good faith behaviour provisions, which is directly related to the relationship with the Model Councillor Code of Conduct, which requires that councillors act with integrity, exercise reasonable care and due diligence, and take reasonable steps to avoid any action which may diminish the public trust and confidence in the integrity of local government and bring discredit upon the council. It is for this very reason that I support this policy.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. As a seconder, Councillor Lappin, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor McClendon.
Chair, I would urge councillors in relation to this motion that need to emphasise caution. I do believe that potentially councillors acting outside the purview of this role, we as councillors potentially liable to things that may or may not be existing legislation. This is why we bring this into it. I don't see the sense of urgency from the council understanding that
Yeah, so I'll stop you there, Councillor McClendon. So I'll stop you there, Councillor McClendon. That's incorrect. I'll just get CEO to clarify.
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarity, if resolved on tonight, this does not then need to go to a further council meeting. So it will be resolved on tonight. Thank you, Chair. This is a full council meeting tonight, so anything that is resolved on is a resolution of council and doesn't need to go to a further council meeting.
Councillor McClendon, I'll stop you there. You need to speak to the actual social media policy and not refer to outside areas. Thank you. Thank you. I now put that to a vote. The motion, or sorry. Councillor Cox, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Chair. I think it's important that people understand that this is a social media policy that has been drawn up and organised by an association, the Victorian Local Governance Association. They have not done it in isolation. They would not have done it without due concerns of legal process or the Local Government Act. It is a furphy to throw up legal advice that may or may not have been given by an outside body. No councillor should be basically purporting to be legally trained, except perhaps Councillor Taylor, who is legally trained. But we are not lawyers, and to try and put the fear into other councillors, I think, is an unfair process. It is a policy document. It deals with social media. Quite clearly, we had issues during the council election. Quite clearly, there are issues of policy within a recent by-election at a state level. And clearly, we are acting for the purposes of the forthcoming federal election, which may or may not be called in the next few days. Now, on that basis, this policy is something that should be put in place that is clear to every councillor in terms of what we say in the open forums and also our staff members who may or may not also be candidates. So for that end, this is a policy document. I'm more than comfortable to endorse it. It is endorsed broadly by the Victorian Local Governments Association. That should satisfy our requirements. I support the document totally.
Any other questions before we go to a vote? Anyone else want to speak to that? Councillor McClendon.
Point of order.
Sorry, I ruled that one. You've spoken already. Thank you, Mr. Yeah, you can't speak to it any further. Thank you, Councillor McClendon. Anyone else that would like to speak? Okay, would you like to reply to that as the mover, Councillor Taylor?
Thanks, Chair. In the absence of reviewing the legal advice that Councillor McClendon has referred to now on 6 occasions, I still forward and I still support the motion as stand.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Stowe, Councillor Lenberg, Councillor Colwell, Councillor Kamevsky, Councillor Brooks, Councillor Cox, Councillor Lappin, Councillor Taylor, myself, Councillor Zinni. All those against? Councillor McClendon. The motion is carried. Okay, Councillor McLean, you are going to be continuing on with the item 3.3. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The second key policy before you today is the proposed update to the Council Communication Policy. This policy was adopted by Council on the 19th of September 2023 and outlines the roles and responsibilities in relation to the use of Council's external communication channels. I will now hand over to Sarah again to highlight some of the key changes.
Thank you, Jacinta. Since the policy was first adopted in 2023, there have been some amendments to the Local Government Act, including the Model Councillor Code of Conduct. Additionally, the recommendation that councils do adopt a social media policy has required some minor changes to the councillor communications policy. The proposed changes include updates to definitions, ensuring clarity around the intent of media responses, clarification around the role of spokesperson, and the detailed advice on the use of social media has been removed as it's now included in the councillor's social media policy. Thank you.
Councillors, do I have any questions? There being none, do I have a motion for item 3.3? Councillor Cox.
All right, we need to hear the
Thanks,
motion.
Chair. I'll be moving the following motion that point 1 of the officer recommendation remains the same, but I would also add point 2 to read the endorsing of media roles and responsibilities table within the policy for the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor and councillors as follows, and that is now on the screen.
I just need to confirm it is as you want.
Can somebody make it bigger or read it out, please?
I can't see with my glasses.
Yeah,
on.
I can't see.
And I confirm that that's the wording I've supplied.
Can I suggest, Councillor Cox, that you read it in
Okay.
full, just for the ease of reading?
Okay, so in the table, it talks about the roles. So in the Mayor, the official spokesperson on all strategic matters resolved, council positions and decisions. Where the Mayor has voted in opposition to a council decision, the Deputy Mayor will be the official spokesperson for that particular decision. In the Deputy Mayor role, acts as the Mayor's spokesperson on all strategic matters if the Mayor is unavailable or the Mayor has authorised to be an official spokesperson or the Mayor has voted in opposition of a council decision. Where the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor have both voted in opposition for the same council decision, the mover of the council decision will be the official spokesperson for that council decision. And under councillors, may speak publicly on behalf of the council if authorised by the Mayor or are the mover of the council decision that was voted in opposition by the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor. Councillors speaking in their capacity as individual councillors must make it clear they are expressing their individual view and not the official view of council. They're the changes.
Do I have a second of the changes? Councillor Abbott.
Thank you, Chair. I simply endorse the document as has been pointed out by the officers. The change takes the social media policy and has been separated. But during the briefing, I also asked the question in terms of what would happen in a policy position if the Mayor was opposed to the decision and the rest of the council endorsed it. Therefore, the Deputy Mayor should act as the spokesperson for that decision. But if both the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor were opposed to the decision and the council still endorsed the decision by majority, then the spokesperson would become the councillor who moved the motion. And effectively, we are just clarifying those roles and updating the council communication policy generally. So from that point of view, I'd ask endorsement of the policy.
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillors, would you like to speak to the motion reports? I've just seen notification of the CEO on campus, so a few words on the motion, Madam Chair.
Yes, you can speak to the motion, Mr Mayor.
I do have grave concerns in relation to this amended motion before us. My instant reaction is that it's policy of the month and it may have implications to the local government in 2020 in relation to Division 3, so they're looking there. 18 is eligible more as 19 specific council amendment. I do believe that the motion undermines the role of the mayor doesn't exist in the local government act. For that reason, I cannot support it. And I think we should probably also seek clarification from the CEO that this does in fact undermine the role of the mayor, but more importantly, contravenes what's perfectly clear in the local government act, and that I would like to seek clarification from the CEO.
It's not question time.
Question you. It's a question to you.
Right. Is it a question?
Yeah. Oh, I think
I think it was a statement. Yeah, I'm happy to be corrected.
This potentially undermines the role of the mayor and contravenes local government act of 2020, Division 3 mayor and deputy mayor. Why would the mayor exercise the powers of the mayor? Can you assure the council that this motion undermines the mayor and contravenes existing legislation of the local government act?
Thank you. Do you have a specific clause of the Local Government Act that you're quoting that you want me to confirm?
Was the roles of the mayor set out as the mayor as the spokesperson. Clearly spells out the Local Government Act.
Point of order. Chair, in relation to, my point of order is you're referring to Division 3, which has to do with municipal monitors, has nothing to do under the legislation with regards to the role of mayor. Could you please direct me to the provision you're talking to?
Number 18, 1.
So the advice I would provide you is that 18.1b, as you quoted, that the role of mayor is to be the principal spokesperson for council, the emphasis being on principal, which doesn't mean only. And I don't see anything in this proposed motion that goes against that definition. I'm comfortable with the advice I've provided, but I will ask Jacinta Stevens, our Executive Manager, whether she wishes to add any further.
Thank you, CEO. I'm quite comfortable with the advice that you've already provided to the question. Through you, Chair, if I can just clarify, it's not an amended motion, it is the motion before the council tonight.
Point of order, can I have the right of reply, please? Thank you. The purpose of the motion is to deal with who the spokesperson is in a contested or contentious situation, and I think it's quite clear that someone who is in the chair as mayor being put into a difficult position of speaking against or voting against a resolution in the council and then having to be the only spokesperson from the council is something that makes a mayor in a fairly awkward, or puts that person in a fairly awkward position. What we're doing is clarifying the role and the policy document. It doesn't undermine or it doesn't amend the Act. We have no power to do that. But as quite clearly outlined by the CEO in relation to the questions, the principal spokesperson is generally the mayor. I agree with that entirely. This situation, the policy is clarifying that where the mayor or the deputy mayor are placed in a difficult position of potentially being out of not supporting the majority decision of the council, that they're not put into a position of having to fully explain the proposition to the public. So this policy is clarifying that role. It is not usurping the powers of the mayor in any way, shape or form, but it is just simply giving the ability for a more positive spin, I suppose, to be put on the motion that is supported by the majority of council, and I think it's a fairly straightforward principle. Thank you.
Councillor Gunn's not present, Mr Mayor.
That's right.
Yes, that's correct. Could you just say that over the microphone?
That's right.
No, Chair, thank you.